space. Why'd they make so much of it? Asking the hard-hitting questions each week. It is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. It must be time for Mission Log Live. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm John Champion. Yes, here on Mission Log Live, we talk about Star Trek and science fiction, but where would all that be without some science fact thrown in for good measure?
Joining us tonight, two filmmakers inspired by exactly that. Coming up in a few minutes, you will meet Matthew Cimone and Paul Muzzin, creators of the upcoming documentary Chasing Atlantis. They were inspired by the final flight of the space shuttle Atlantis. That was in July of 2011. And they decided to tell the story of that program and the stories of people who built it and were inspired by it. Now, of course, when you're talking about the space program and human exploration, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to Star Trek. So we'll be talking about that as well. Matt and Paul found a lot of Trek notables who wanted to share their stories. And of course, we're hoping that you'll share your stories too.
Hey, so if you want to meet Matt and Paul, and who doesn't, or if you want to talk about the space program, or just how cool the space shuttle is, or your very own space story, well, you can do exactly that. And you know what's coming. You click on the Zoom link, or use the one tap from your smartphone, or you call us, just like the settlers did, 669-900-6833. That number again, 669-900-6833. Then enter the meeting code that you see on screen or in the show description. Hey, Ken, a few weeks ago, it was Halloween, and you definitely were not wearing a costume on Halloween. Definitely not.
I was totally not wearing a costume on Halloween, right? That was just my Tuesday night thing, because I forgot we were doing a show.
Yeah.
And so I was dressed up like a, 18th century dandy, like you do.
Yeah. And then tonight we're talking about the space program, and you were definitely not wearing a costume.
Definitely not wearing
the
costume.
show.
No. Yeah. So what's funny is, I don't know if you heard, John, because they've been really quiet about it, but Apple TV Plus came out just like a week or two ago. I know it's been really under the radar.
Yeah.
And I've been watching For All Mankind for the past couple of days. And I thought, hey, we're talking about space. I have the perfect mission control outfit. Sadly, I'm missing a pack of Luckies. I've been missing a pack of Luckies for like 9 years, though. But still, I'm totally not dressed up like one of the guys. You see, now I thought about going Gene Kranz because I do have a vest.
Nice.
But I thought, I'll get hot, and that's overkill.
No, look, I mean, you add a cup of coffee, the cigarette, a little sweat, get the whole...
Got a cup of coffee, and honestly...
Oh, perfect.
In keeping with the For All Mankind theme.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to do as we do and say hello to the fine folks in the chat. There's Julian, there's Shannon, there's Jeff. Ooh, there's the Vice Admiral checking in. There's Earl. It's so weird. Earl's there and he's here at the same time. How does he do it? I don't know. There's Sean, there's Jeff, there's Carlos, there's Peter, there's Chuck, there's Narda saying good day, as she does. There's David saying hello from an obscure hotel in Anaheim Hills. Don't know what David's up to tonight, but that sounds like a party. There's Lou, there's Joy, there's so many people. There's Casey, and just a lot of our friends checking in tonight. I hope that you will be calling in to say hello to our special guests. And Joseph says, watching my first Mission Log Live. So special shout out to you, Joseph. And it looked like Barry. Oh, Barry says, Ken with glasses looks so smart. So
I'm fooling everybody. Thank you very much, Barry. I appreciate that.
Not a lie right there. And and Chris says Ken is like Clint Howard in Apollo 13.
I'm invisible.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do. I can tell you stories. Hey, thanks everybody, by the way, for saying stuff about how smart I appear all of a sudden. And do feel free, please, to call in, not only to talk to our guests, but also we were just talking about this right before the show. You say space to me, and outside of the science fiction stuff, like I try to think about things that, that really resonate with me or memories that I have. We would like to hear some of those from you guys as well. I mean, as we say, our guests tonight were inspired by the fact that they were going to go see a space shuttle launch. Maybe you saw something like that, or maybe there was a special space memory that you have. We'd love to hear it from you. So hit up the Zoom link, hit the one tap from your smartphone, or call 669-900-6833, 669-900-6833. Whether you're listening now live as I'm saying these words, thank you very much for being here. If you're catching us later, audio only, that's fantastic too. The one thing that we do ask, wherever you're finding us, please hit like and please hit share. so that more people can find Mission Log Live.
Yeah. And, we do have a couple of events. I was going to jump to the poll, but then I was reminded we have a couple of events coming up, a little bit TBD. So you've heard us talk about Sansar.com, the virtual reality platform that Roddenberry is involved with. We have the Roddenberry Nexus. We have the Roddenberry Theater. Coming up on December 5th, Roddenberry himself will be doing something. It might be a game. It might be just hanging out. It might be story time with Roddenberry. We're not sure, but I can tell you this. Rod has the avatar of the winning avatar designer from our Halloween contest, our Trek or Treat contest. And it's going to look pretty dashing.
So I was going to ask about that because he had said he'll wear it for 30 days. And that is technically past the 30 days, but he will be sporting that once again?
He will. He will be sporting that, and will he look magnificent. And then a little later in the month, we will be having a date to be determined, but a special Star Trek The Motion Picture event with a special guest, specifically talking about that movie and some of the artwork that we have from that movie. It's the 40th anniversary on December 7th. So keep an eye on the Mission Log page, and we'll, of course, have the Roddenberry page, share it as well. And to sign up, all you have to do is go to Sansar.com on a PC running Windows 7 or higher. And that is it. Then you're in VR, you're chatting. If you have the VR headset, great. You can experience it all in 3D. But if not, and you're just on your desktop, that's cool too. You still get to interact, chat with everybody. It is a blast.
Now, John was going to jump to the poll earlier, but I'm going to beat him to it. We have a poll question coming up for tonight, similar to the one that I was asking about your stories, but we'll get to that in a moment because first we want to hit last week's poll question. When did you discover Trek? Your two options were Classic Era, which was TOS all the way through Enterprise, or New Era, which is basically 2009, JJ Trek, or later. Just a ridiculous landslide. And 96% of the people watching this show say that they found it between TOS and Enterprise. 4% say that they found it in the New Era, which is cool because we talk about this a lot with Larry, John. I mean, what's great is that somebody who found it, because a lot of people, especially people who are tied in hard to the original series, maybe some with TNG as well. A lot of people look at JJ Trek and say, "Dah," right? I mean, there's not into it at all. We've got people who are finding Mission Log's page on Facebook or finding this show who started in 2009 or later, and still there's enough resonance there for them. They're like, I want to find out more and hang out and talk to these nerds.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's what they do. They hang out and they talk to us nerds.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Good on them for doing that. Now, this week, in honor of our guests and the topic that we'll be covering tonight, have you ever been to a space launch, a launch of some sort to see a rocket go up? And yes, 14% of you when I last checked. No, 86% of you. Now, I'm certain that more of you have seen one maybe online or seen one on TV. I recommend downloading the NASA TV app or just tuning into nasa.tv because I'll have a schedule for really any launch, might be a satellite launch, something like that. And that's a great place to get a heads up and then watch it online. But if you ever get a chance to go to an actual real, you are there in-person launch, well, that is a pretty special thing. And a full 14% of you have seen that. So,
really, really quickly, if they grew up around the same time we did, they saw one at the top of the hour every hour because that was MTV.
Yeah. Oh, so true.
Which is a horrible way to compare, exposure to the space program. And just it's like coming up next is Bon Jovi right after this old, film of one of the greatest things to ever happen in American history.
Sure. Yeah. They just, they co-opted that. Whatever. That's fine. Kept it in the public consciousness, lest we forget that actually happened.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, we do want to say hello to our guests tonight who have been waiting patiently. We have Matthew Cimone and Paul Muzzin from the upcoming documentary film, Chasing Atlantis, which you can find out more about at chasingatlantis.com. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, so let me make sure I got this right. So, Matthew, you are the producer and host, really, of this film. We will see a lot of you on screen. And Paul, you are the director and director of photography, correct?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And I guess, Matthew, if you want to start with us here and just tell us the inspiration of why this movie. Give us your kind of background of your space enthusiasm what led you here.
I think like many of us, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was younger. It kind of started with me. My grandfather was an amateur astronomer, and he had a cottage on a lake called Chebanwan in northwestern Ontario. And I grew up, like, my earliest memories are with him standing out on that dock and looking at the stars. And the other earliest memories I have are watching Star Trek. So between those two inspirations, I was like, let's do it. Let's go to space. And it didn't work out. It turns out only 500 people have ever been astronauts. It's quite a competitive field. And turns out I struggled with math a lot kind of in school, and my eyesight wasn't super great. And back then, like, my astronaut inspiration was a Canadian astronaut named Chris Hadfield, and he was also an Air Force pilot. And so a lot of us that were younger in that time, we thought we'd get to the Canadian Space Agency by becoming pilots, Air Force pilots. It turns out you needed perfect eyesight back then in order to do that. So I had to find kind of an alternate route, and my life went more into like political science, and but I always had this hankering to explore. I think that's kind of what my grandfather instilled in me, and that always kind of stuck around. And so I was always looking for travel opportunities through the work that I was doing, but there was always something missing. And finally, in 2011, I had heard online that the space shuttle was being retired, and I had lost track with the shuttle program for so long that I didn't even know that it was coming to an end. And it was kind of this bittersweet moment because I'd never seen a launch in person before. And I wanted to go. I wanted to be part of this historic moment. And leading up to the travel plans of going down, I thought, well, how can we share that experience with as many people as possible? And then I thought, well, maybe the best way to do that would be to bring a camera. And so originally I was just going to grab a DSLR and go down. But then I started talking to Paul about the project, and Paul actually has a background in film, and he said, no, let's like do this properly. Let's get a proper camera and let's see what happens. And that's kind of was the impetus. It was just started in this road trip to try to recapture a childhood dream and see what happened along the way.
Very cool. Hey, I don't want to get us too far off track. There's a lot to talk about here, about the space program, about Star Trek, about what you're discovering through the process of making your documentary. But I do actually have to interrupt the show for just a moment, if you'll bear with me. We have somebody standing by here. And let me preface this by saying, so next week on Mission Log Live, we're discussing the upcoming short trek. So that'll be our standard format of recapping and then asking you to chime in with your opinions. So really, this is the last sort of free-form interview show that we have with Ken. And because it's a special occasion, I wanted to welcome somebody on the air to say hello to Ken and all of our guests. So we have Lieutenant Jay with us on the show tonight. Tracy Coco, right there, standing by. Tracy, how are you tonight?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic.
There's Coco. Coco says hi too. Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you?
Hey.
I'm good. Hey, there you are. How are you?
Fine. I don't know who you're talking to now. Wow. See, I wish I had known you were going to be on because I did this whole dress up thing, and I would have worn your shirt, not your shirt.
Oh,
guys, it's not like that.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah,
no problem at all.
Like
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
golly.
What's going on?
Stuff, things. Not thinking about it too much.
Are you like surprised or something that I'm?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm glad we could finally get you on. Hey, listen, guys, thanks for being here. We're gonna. Yeah, it's ridiculous that you're here.
Oh boy, he's lost for words. He's turning red.
I mean that in the nicest way possible. Yeah. Well, thank you for. Thank you for.
People in the chat, by the way, going nuts that
they are?
That we have Lieutenant Jay herself right here. They're absolutely thrilled.
Hi, everybody.
And I guess what it would, hashtag bring back Jay.
Bring back Lieutenant Jay, hashtag Picard. Yes. Oh my God. Can I tell you really quick? I was just in Destination Star Trek, right? In Birmingham.
Yes.
UK. So I'm at my table, and then I hear, from everybody that Patrick is going to be whipped in and whipped out really quick. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I have to like like at least say hi to him. So the handler that was handling me, well, a handler handles the act. It sounds kind of kinky. The handlers help us at our table. Okay. So anyway,
Yes.
she's like, there he is. He's right there, just like down the aisle from you. And I'm like, oh my God. So I just turned around, got up, and I yelled, Patrick. And he turned around and he goes, Tracy, Coco. And he held out his arms, and I ran up to him, and he took my hands in his hands, hugged me, and then gave me a kiss on each cheek. And he goes, I love you. I wish I could talk, but I have to go. And I go, I love you too. Please, please. And he goes, we will talk. And that's all he said.
Okay. See, there you go. Look, we all knew, we could all tell that Jay and Picard, there was a thing there.
There was something there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't just, after the 25 years after Nemesis, you can't just say like, oh, that's gone. No.
I mean, I could even be, I don't know, Section 31, maybe. I don't know.
Oh.
No,
I don't know.
We want much more. We want more, and we want better for you than that. We want much more and much better for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yes. Wouldn't that be awesome if I turn around in a chair and he's walks in and he go, hey, hi there, Patrick.
Yeah. Like if they gave Lieutenant Jay some lines.
Yes.
That's what I want.
Yeah. Or I don't even, just get me there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just get me on there. Yeah.
Earl, by the way, says surely she's made captain by now. Captain Jay.
I'd probably be captain or admiral or something.
Oh, yeah.
No, again, sure. I'd rather see you end up in Section 31 than be an admiral, please.
Isn't Section 31 like kick-ass? Aren't they like?
Yeah, well, and that is special. You, yeah, but the morally dubious. I think that's the thing. We want our Jay to be, cut from a better cloth than that.
Yeah. I have a question. Okay. I know, well, you can see me, right?
Yes.
Does that mean everybody can see me that's on the show tonight?
Everybody.
Oh my God. Hi, everybody. It took me so long to figure this Zoom thing out. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stupid. I can't do it. Finally, I did it. So yay, I'm here. Yay.
Yay. And you look fabulous and sound fabulous. And what can we say except that we want more Jay?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yes, I would appreciate anything you guys can help me with. Anything. Get it out there.
Our tens of listeners are going to get the word out.
Okay. But yeah, I wanted to pop in and surprise him. Is he still there? Is he still
No, I'm still here. Probably a tiny bit. Yeah, but thank you very much. Actually, it means a lot to me that you would thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys. I mean, you guys have been great. Thank you for your support and love, and everybody else listening. And hey, hi there, guy. What's this guy's name?
That was Paul. And then
that was Paul.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, guys. Okay, I'll let you guys chat, but I just wanted to say I love you all. Thank you for all your support and love. I totally appreciate it. And Ken, I love you to death. And good luck in whatever you want to do. Yeah. And
thank you very much.
Nice dressed up, by the way.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Well, thanks.
Tracy, cheers.
All right. Thank you, guys. Love you.
Live long and prosper. Bye.
Bye.
How do I? Okay. Wait.
Okay. 669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or you can do the thing with the thing. I don't even know, man. I'm lost now.
Yeah. By the way, thank you to Matthew and Paul for indulging me. They knew that was coming.
So they knew that was coming. Really?
They knew
that's
that.
Fun.
We all kept it a secret. We were pretty good.
That's nicely done. Yeah. Way to go. It's okay.
Yeah. Art of pre-production.
Yeah. So there you go. But anyway, all right. So now back to the show. Back to why we have you guys here. Matthew, we got a taste of your interest in space. You said very convincingly that you did not become an astronaut. So I believe you. And then Paul, similar background, sci-fi fan, space fan. Is that what led you to this?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, Matthew and I grew up in the same small hometown of Thunder Bay, Ontario. We knew each other in high school. We shared the same interests, but all throughout high school and even before that, I was writing stories and making my own short films or long films, however you wanted to look at it, for a high school student at the time. And 99, I hit film school. here in the Toronto area. And when Matthew and I had reconnected when he moved down for university, we started to explore interest again for myself anyway, in Star Trek with the release of Star Trek Enterprise. That was amazing. We just watched that show. We weren't sure what to think of it, but many years later, we came to appreciate it for what it is. But what happened was I fell out. I want to say I fell out of love with Star Trek, but I definitely didn't know how much it truly meant to me. Life takes over. And when living in a rural community, there's a lot of other things that sort of take precedent in terms of what's in your life. Anyway, when Matthew had mentioned to me about the space shuttle launch, the final one, STS-135, I was prepping to go on vacation. And he said, look, I really want to go down. And I said, okay, what does this look like? Maybe we can make something out of this. And we thought it was just going to be a road trip documentary. We had no idea we'd be working on this 8 years later. And so for me, and I remark about this a little bit in some of our behind the scenes footage, but for me, it was being able to reconnect with Star Trek, reconnect with science fiction and my love of space, but through Matthew and his shared experience. And so for myself, that's my personal connection to it, and connection to specifically the space, my interest in space and Star Trek. It's always been there, but I got to live it through someone else's eyes and their life experience as we're creating this thing. And I think that's actually for myself more special than just making it about me or whatnot. So.
I mean, it sounds like for both of you, the science fiction and specifically Star Trek element is completely tied to the actual space program. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that this is probably a theme that you explore a lot in the documentary, and it's something that you found in the people that you talked to who actually worked for NASA and worked as astronauts. I notice you have people in there like Chris Hadfield, and it seems like there are so many, it's almost a cliche at this point, the number of people who say, well, I went into sciences or medicine or teaching or the space program or whatever because of Star Trek, because I was inspired to do something in that world. I mean, I think we hear it a lot, so we almost tune it out, but I think you're here to tell us that passion is a genuine motivating factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even people like one of our interviews with Michael Okuda, Michael even had the opportunity to design actual mission patches for, like actual shuttle missions and space station missions. And so, yeah, there's definitely that overlap in between. And I think even beyond that, beyond like the technical capacity, what I thought was interesting is a lot of people felt that now, especially moving forward, it's not like space race era anymore, but with the International Space Station, this is actually like a collaborative international effort. And so when we talked to people about that, and we said, is it fair to say that we actually are venturing out into space in kind of this Roddenberry spirit, like in the spirit of togetherness? Like, is there almost in a way a boundary that in order to cross it, to begin to explore the universe, we need to do it together. We need to overcome our differences to do it together. In a way, I think the International Space Station represents that. We have modules that are attached together by former superpower rivals that are now operating together in space. A lot of our astronauts are being sent out through Russia to go to space, So I think that maybe people are seeing that in two different capacities, not just the technical, but also the in a societal way, that kind of early spark of the Federation.
How do you guys feel personally about the fact that so much of it now seems to be going to private sector instead? And I mean, I'm of two minds on it. On the one hand, you don't have to go in front of Congress every 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years and justify. On the other hand, it's rock star Richard Branson and rock star Elon Musk and rock star Jeff Bezos. Okay, it's Jeff Bezos anyway. I mean, on the one hand, I do love the idea of the togetherness that's presented by the ISS. At the same time, I mean, the sexiness of it and the show of it right now seems to be coming from the corporate sector.
To quote Chris Hadfield, governments don't create spacecraft. Private sector corporations create spacecraft. And so we actually met a lot of people from all aspects of life along this documentary that have had similar feelings about it, whether they dislike that notion or whether they like the notion of private sector. I personally, I look forward to seeing what private sector does, but as long as it is always tempered with what the rest of the community and what the rest of the global community thinks it should be done with that. I don't know. I feel Matt probably echoes a similar sentiment, but as long as we are doing it in some form of collaboration, and that there are those checks and balances in place, we won't hopefully run into anything major. I mean, all of those companies are getting government dollars to be able to do the things that they're doing, and in many ways do them more efficiently than what has been done before.
And using government patents, like some of that technology that they're building on was already created by like government patents, or like patents that were created through NASA as well. The one thing I still wish that we had more public funding for exploration. Like back in the day when it was during the space race, and I think a lot of that was politically motivated, but NASA basically had a blank check back then. There were 400,000 people that were employed to make the moon landing successful. And I'm hoping, when people like Chris Hadfield ended up on Twitter singing David Bowie songs in space, and then, they get that much more public attention, I hope it puts exploration more in the public mindset, and that we can talk about that more when election periods come up, is actually taking that seriously, because I think it really does benefit everyone when we do send people into space. It doesn't have to be an either or. I don't think that we're ignoring issues on our own planet when we're sending people into the stars. In many ways, we're finding solutions to issues on our own world by doing so.
I want to go to a listener who has been standing by at Party Central in an undisclosed hotel in Anaheim Hills. That'd be David. David, welcome to the show.
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah. You like my background?
It's really nice. Yeah.
Tell everybody to keep it down, though. We're having trouble hearing you.
It's actually loud. I'm right next to the 91.
Oh, okay. Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
Tell
man?
them to keep it down.
Well, anyway, Matthew, Paul, look forward to seeing the documentary. I don't know where I can see it. You'll no doubt say, but I'm interested to get your take. You kind of answered it before, but maybe a different slant on it. Where do you think the future of human exploration is going? Because all I really see working in the industry, myself, and is a lot of satellites, a lot of telescopes, a lot of things like that. All very cool stuff. But I'm interested in knowing about the human future.
Sorry, David, you said you work in the industry?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah, aerospace industry, not space, but.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, you might have a better idea of that than even we do then. I'm not sure.
That's my take.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so NASA just recently announced the Artemis mission, which is supposed to be a return to the moon. So that's one. And then, of course, there's several people that are vying for Mars exploration, but it's always like 20 to 30 years away. So I think we have to make a push for it. But it isn't to say, I mean, I think there's still value. There's definitely value in sending people into space. I think that's why, like, when we went to the Atlantis liftoff, there was 1 million people showed up for it, like actually 1 million people. You don't have 1 million people show up for a satellite launch. It's just not the same because you don't have the same human connection to it. But that isn't to say that we're not still opening up the universe with satellites. Like the next mission that's coming up with the James Webb Space Telescope, it's supposed to be like a huge upgrade to Hubble. And I mean, think about the ways that Hubble has connected with people by giving us a window into the universe. So I'm really hoping that these missions that they're announced to Mars and back to the moon actually happen. But it isn't to say that we're still not capable of inspiring people by some of the other projects that we have, even if they're not crewed by humans.
All right. Cool.
All right. Is that all I got tonight, David? All good?
Sure.
All right, man. Well, take care. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks.
All right. Have a good one.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone. We just lost David because I thought we should have asked him the question that I was asking people earlier, because I want to ask you guys as well.
Oh yeah.
About what your space memory is. I mean, here's the thing: you went now chasing Atlantis, so I'm assuming that is now your space memory. What was it before that? I mean, because I've never been there, to a launch, but I still have a couple of things that pop to mind immediately. Like, what was the space thing that made you say, that's a thing I need to see? Not just the fact that it was going to end, but like what resonated with you before that? What was that? Like, I know you talked about being at the end of the dock with your grandfather. I mean, is that the moment? Was it the first time you spotted a satellite unaided? Was it something you saw on TV? What was the moment that when you thought space, I mean, that was the thing that leapt to mind?
Yeah, well, there's one moment particularly with my grandfather, and I think it's one of my earliest childhood memories. And we would typically look through the telescope, and we look at stripes on Jupiter and rings of Saturn and that kind of thing. But I remember one time in particular, he pointed out this little fuzzy patch in the sky, and it was right above the tree line over the cottage. And he was trying to resolve it, and it's the light of the Andromeda galaxy, which is actually the largest object that a human being can see with the naked eye. And you need clear skies and clear dark skies in order to see it. But then I remember him telling me, this is the light of billions of stars. And he would put emphasis on that too. He would always say billions, and then he would say with a B, and then he would say, to make sure that you understood, right? And I remember that is the first clearest moment I remember feeling a sense of wonder about the universe. And if there's one legacy that my grandfather left with me, it was that. It was just being feeling a sense of wonder about the world around us. And in a way, I think that's a way we can live out being an astronaut, even if we don't have a chance to go to space. But I think that moment really kind of guided everything else that I've done, and why I gravitated to shows like Star Trek. And now I'm here doing this film.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, no, it's me. And the thing is, it's because Apple is so great. It puts your calls through to everything. So even though it was muted, no, it wasn't. I do apologize for that, guys.
Okay. What about Paul? What about you? What was your?
I was going to say, Paul, same question.
I mean, I don't think I have anything as poignant as that with like what Matthew has, but my first inclination is think back to grade 6. I was in a class, grade 6 class. The teacher was Mr. Dudar. He was our grade 6 like homeroom teacher. Actually, the school was so small, we didn't have multiple teachers teaching us different subjects. He was the guy. And we did a science, astronomy, physics unit. And in that time, at that point in time in Canadian history, we were about to send Dr. Roberta Bondar, who would have been the first Canadian female astronaut, into space on a space shuttle. And so for like a month or two, we were really focused on learning about the physics and all of the things that go into sending someone into space. And so myself and a couple other friends of ours, we wrote the Canadian Space Agency and just talked to them about, that we would like to go to space one day. We really appreciated what they were doing. And at this we're talking pre-internet, right? This is in the 80s. And I remember receiving in the mail, and I think I still have some of this stuff somewhere in a closet somewhere, a manila envelope. And I opened that thing up, and it was like opening up the holy grail, like finding it, like Indiana Jones. This thing just reveals in front of me. And inside of it, it was all of these documents about the future International Space Station, about what it is to send someone into space. They sent mission patches, like stickers in there. And I had that on a bulletin board for probably 4 or 5 years, just tacked onto my wall. And
tangible connection, right?
And so it was really interesting because when we went back, it was kind of weird, but I had to ask. But when we went back to the Canadian Space Agency, we actually ran a number of interviews there. I had to ask, hey, you don't happen to keep these letters that students send? Because that would have been the coolest thing ever, to find it in some basement somewhere. Of course, they don't keep it, but I had to ask because it's the first moment that I have that I can directly connect to my interest in space. And so for myself now, actually, that moment's not important anymore as the moments that I'm creating now with my son. He's 2 years old. Every night before we go to bed, to help calm him down, we say, okay, let's look outside and look at the stars. And he just quiets down and just looks out the window, and he's stars. And he just looks and he tries to point them out. And it's really heartwarming. And I'm looking forward to creating those future moments and memories, and hopefully being a positive influence on him the way that Matthew's grandfather was on Matthew. So those are the two things that I think about the most.
Hey, I want to go to a caller who's been standing by. We have, all the way from another undisclosed location, the Vice Admiral himself, Vice Admiral Erickson. Welcome to the show tonight. How are you, sir?
I am well, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. What's on your mind tonight?
Well, Matt, how are you doing? Because you and I have only talked a few times, and of course, Jen says hi.
Hello. Yeah, last time we hung out in person, I guess, was STLV, what, 2015? Is that
Yeah. We've talked a few times on the phone since then, I think, or at least on other chat mediums, but
and virtual space, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is great. Didn't expect that you'd be here tonight, so I was happy to see that, and getting the exposure is great too. So, both of you have talked about, some of the things that have inspired you to get here. But are you hoping, and what kind of things are you hoping that this project inspires in others?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm glad you asked that. So off Paul's, your left shoulder, I guess, on the wall over there is there's a piece
Right
of
here.
artwork. Yeah, it was done by a friend of ours, and what she does is she takes artwork, and she takes artwork from her son and then redraws it basically recolors it. So originally that was just like a crayon drawing from her son. And okay. And what happens is it was kind of interesting because she gave it to us. The company's called Frosticular Designs. You can find it online. But she gave it to us as a gift to give away for one of our fundraisers. So it was like Indiegogo campaign or whatever. But then over the course of time, we realized, well, wait a second, that artwork is really indicative of what we're trying to do. Because it's, in a way, we're looking back on what was a childhood dream and we're recoloring it with our adult lives. And so that painting is, in a way, it's kind of like a symbol of what we're trying to do. So I'm always hoping, whether or not people are interested in space, I don't think that matters so much. But if people see the documentary, I want them to think, well, what is that thing that I feel like I may have lost touch with at some point in my life, some childhood passion? And how do I reconnect with it? Because I think that we sometimes confuse passion with dream. I think passion gives birth to a dream, but if the dream doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you have to throw the passion away. I did. Like, for a while, I thought, since my dream of astronaut didn't work out, I got to throw the passion of space away. But we found another way to reintegrate it into our adult lives, and I think that's pretty cool. I hope it inspires other people to do the same.
Yeah, I mean, for myself, I'm also talking so that people can see the painting right there, and I don't know. I'll drop you. I actually have an image of it along with the original design that her son did, and I'll drop it in the chat in a few minutes. But for myself, I just, because we're crafting Matthew's story on screen and his connection and reconnecting into the space program and exploring the connections and really a sense of belonging within a community that appreciates the same things that he does. And, growing up in a small community, you can really feel alone at times. And so for myself, it's just more of a matter of, we just want to, even if we reach one person, that's to say, like, you're not alone. There's people who understand in some way what you might be living or going through, and there's that shared experience. And if we can touch someone through that story, that means everything to us, even if it's just our moms, right? Like, just someone, someone who can appreciate that and we can touch in some small way. Because if for myself, if I was to put any hope of legacy or anything like that on it, I would feel it would almost be a little bit too self-indulgent at this moment, because, like, who am I to do this? But it's just, I think through those shared stories and sharing our vulnerabilities with people, I think that's really where we can actually encourage people around us to just find new ways of growing. And that's kind of what we're hoping to do.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, so Vice Admiral, I'm going to throw it back onto you with Ken's question that he's been posing tonight. What's your space memory?
My space memory is, I was 4 years old and we were living in the family house in Cleveland, in Brooklyn here in Cleveland. And I remember sitting down in front of the very large console TV with the rest of the family and watching us land Apollo 11 on the moon. Wow. So it is one of the handful of memories I have from that far back. But and of course, we know that memory is a construct. So how accurate it is every time I think of it, I don't know. But I do know that I was watching it when it happened, and that much I can't, that can't be changed. And I do, like I'm very happy and appreciative that I had that opportunity, no doubt.
Yeah. But, that's a really lucky thing to have a memory that is that old, but you can still corroborate with videotape. So the memory that you have may not be. It is a construct. It isn't accurate, quote unquote, but you can actually go back and watch that broadcast and let that take you right back to that moment, which is a pretty special thing. So,
absolutely.
Very cool. Thanks for calling in tonight, man.
Of course, guys. Always.
Yeah, thank you.
Always.
Right.
And
Take care.
Talk to you later, Matt. Talk to both of you later, too. And it's good to meet you as well.
Thanks for the question.
Have a good night.
Take care, guys.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call, 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or if you're on Facebook, click the link there. Meeting code is scrolling right across the top of the screen, and you can be on with us in no time. You want proof? It's about to happen again right now. Lou is on the phone. Good evening, Lou.
Lou. Oh, wait.
Tyke, I was kidding. There's no proof.
Lou is muted. Now Lou's with us. Hey, Lou.
Is that me?
I don't know.
It's
Is
tough
it?
for us to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ken, by the way, I loved you in Office Space.
I told you not to bring that up. It was
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
it's
right.
true. I was gonna offer you my stapler, but I'm not on video. I just realized.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Well,
Is it true that Matthew and Paul are local celebrities?
Local to where? Because they could be celebrities, but I guess it depends on
Where are they right now? I don't know if they can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. I reside in Toronto.
What part?
And
He's coming over later. Your house.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that.
Thank you.
I just realized how that was a little stalkery. I'm just wondering if we might have run into each other at sci-fi conventions in the Ontario area.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Matthew used to live in the Toronto area before he headed to Vancouver, so you might have even bumped into both of us. But I've been around at Fan Expo and at TCon, Reverse Polarity. It used to be called Star TrekCon, I think. TCon.
So we might have been in the same convention, if not the same panels. Because I ran trivia contests and comedy and all that.
Okay, yeah, possibly. I mean, I haven't done a lot of panels. I'd say the most panels we've done is actually up in Thunder Bay. When we go back, they recently started a wonderful Comic-Con up there, and so being able to go back to our roots and to be able to participate.
I should point out to John and Ken and all non-Canadians watching us. Thunder Bay is approximately, what would you say? Oh, actually, no. Thunder Bay is 10 hours north of Toronto, isn't it?
Try more like 18.
Oh,
18 by car. I've done it in 15. That's pretty reckless. But it's 6 hours north. It's 6 hours north of Minneapolis.
Okay, that they might be able to identify with that.
Yeah, right. It's in the middle of nowhere.
John and Ken are the ones who got me back into being interested about space and Trek and all that. And it's just, I'm just fanboying it a little bit here, being probably older than both of you combined. Just to have a Canadian celebrity on the podcast. And it also I wanted to say a tearful goodbye to Ken. But forgive the tear-stained droplets on the document that I had.
Okay.
Thanks. We'll probably do the goodbye thing next week. We can't do that right now, so maybe we won't. Maybe
we got a short trek next week.
We got a short trek. That's right. That's the whole thing. Yeah,
where Pike is doing a thing.
Is John going to ask me what my space memory is, or did I miss that?
I don't know. Is he?
Hang on one second, Lou. John, are you going to ask Lou his space memory?
Hey, Ken, with your permission, I think the next step in the show, I'm going to ask Lou about his space memory, unless you want that job.
I was really holding out for Ken, but if I have to settle for John.
Hey, Ken, I've got something to do.
Lord,
could you very quickly ask Lou about his space memory?
Could one of the Canadians step in and ask that question?
No,
a local Canadian celebrity, apparently.
It's an American show.
Okay, there you go.
So
This is better.
Lou, what is your space memory? And five extra points if it's this conversation right now.
Well, right now, oh my God, this is more laughs than I get during stand-up. Excuse me. Let me get my voice down a couple of notches to register. My first ever space memory is I was a wee child when you had the American space landing in 1969. Like everybody in our country knows where they were September 28th, 1972, and both Paul and Matthew are going to be aware of that date. But I remember the moon landing. We were up at the little cottage that we had for the summer, and I was not sure what I was looking at. It was one of those 5-inch black and white TVs. But I remember my parents saying that this was an historical occasion because man had never walked on the moon before. I will say that I got reinterested when Canadian Chris Hadfield made his space journey a couple of years ago. I'm more of a Trek fan than a space fan, but that was my first one. Oh my God, they're 50 years apart. I'm old. I'm old. I'm just so old.
That's okay because there's no video, so
Yeah,
Not today. Not today.
We could totally be fooled today.
I just took off my makeup, or maybe I should have left it on. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to thank both Matthew and Paul and Ken.
Yeah, well, I know. All right. Yeah. All right. That's enough of that. Lou, thank you very much for calling in.
Take care, Lou.
Good night.
Thanks for coming on.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call, 669-900-6833, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone, or if you're on Facebook, click the link and then enter the meeting code and you're right there. I want to say what mine is, and the reason I want to say what mine is because I want to use it to lead into another question. Huntsville, Alabama Space and Rocket Center, I think I was probably 9, 10 years old. Most of the trip I don't remember at all. The one thing I do remember is they had a podium there behind which Kennedy had stood. And if memory serves, it is the podium behind which he stood when he said, "Screw you guys, we're going to the moon." Right? I think it was a little bit nicer than that. I think it was a little bit more,
Some eloquence there.
Yeah, I think it was probably a tiny bit. I think he had speechwriters and I don't. But there was something about standing in that place where, and obviously it wasn't the same place because he didn't make it at the Huntsville, Alabama Space and Rocket Center. There wasn't one yet. But standing, in the footsteps behind the podium where this person said, "We're going to do this thing." And then, 8, 9 years later, we do that thing. That to me is incredibly powerful. And I think it's sort of like what you were saying a minute ago, or somebody was saying a moment ago. I apologize about, just sort of that physical connection. It was, I apologize. It was Paul when he was talking about, getting the letter back and having the patches that were sent from the space agency. It kind of makes me wonder about the kinds of stories that we're telling now and the kind of stories we could tell. Like you guys and John were also talking about what a big deal Star Trek is to so many people in the space agency. I'm assuming that's TOS-TNG because Discovery is only 2 years old now. And so I don't think there's been that kind of time. Sure. What sort of stories do you suppose it is that I don't want to say need to be, I don't want to say should be, but I'm going to anyway. What sort of stories should be told? Are they the more, inspirational and who cares about telling the science part? Are they the more science real and who cares about the inspiration? What kinds of stories do you think get us to, that next step, all the way to T-10?
Wow.
John, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. It was actually for our guests. I mean, do either of you like which stories would resonate with you, or which are the ones you think that we go for, or do you take the documentary route the way that you guys have done and start telling the stories of people who've actually done it, so that people can say, "I don't need a sound stage. I don't need, what I need is a good math score or
right.
a gumption or what have you."
Go ahead, Matt. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you
no,
definitely go.
Okay. The ones, there was Paul actually, I think, catalyzed a lot of the conversation around the fact that when we were there watching the shuttle go off into space, you know, we wanted to film the shuttle, but we also wanted to turn around and we wanted to look at all the people, because that was a story as well, that all of us were there together. And originally the film was more focused on the shuttle as a piece of technology. Chasing Atlantis was literally chasing the space shuttle. And then Paul said, you know, maybe there's more story here that connects back in time, like, you know, it's your own family and inspiration, and that would resonate with people, because that's what we started to ask them about. And at first I was reluctant to do that, because I didn't think, well, like, who am I to, you know, to go down that route? But it was more like, no, we need someone whose story can kind of connect so that other people can resonate with it and they can kind of branch off of it. But the stories they're ones of connection and one of belonging. And I think space is really good that way, because it kind of facilitates this discussion as to whether or not we are alone, right? And I think we all ask that as individuals, but when you ask that question as a society, that's SETI, that's the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, that's going out into space, and that we connect to a certain passion. And when we interviewed people and asked them about this, the passion was related to a mentor or, you know, a family member, or and so it was that human connection. And I think that's why Star Trek is such a potent storytelling vehicle, because we're not just out exploring space, we're exploring space together. We're building families, and that out there's always room for everyone to belong and to be able to connect. And so I think if we're going to go forward and actually do more exploring, we need to be telling stories where we're connecting as a humanity to do that, and understanding what it means to be human by venturing out into the cosmos.
Matthew has a t-shirt. He likes to wear a lot of geek tees. I'm sporting one now for tonight.
Nice.
But he has one which is of the Earth. I don't know if Matt has a picture of it that he can send in later and post it, but it's a picture of the Earth looking through a telescope, and that telescope sort of comes back and reorbits the Earth. So the Earth is basically looking back in on itself. And I think it's a very clear picture of the fact that when we go and explore outside of ourselves, and in this case, using a telescope to explore the stars, we discover something about ourselves. We discover who we are as individuals and who we are as a community. And I think that self-discovery can only make us better people, and hopefully bring about what we would see as being potential Federation values in the future. Because who wouldn't want the Federation? We could definitely use it right now. At least Prime Universe Federation. So yeah. But so in that context, you know, when we're doing these interviews and we're asking people these things, it was never, at least it wasn't my intention anyway, to see how can we encourage someone to go into space program, or how can we get them involved and interested in technology. Granted, those are great things, and that would be amazing if we can encourage someone to do that. We need a lot more young girls and boys involved in STEM. We need more people involved in the STEM sciences, but we also need more people involved in the humanities and the arts, probably now more so than ever, because they're the people who will be able to keep other parts of our lives in check. And so for me, it's always about coming back to what's the story that we're telling, and how do we connect to someone else. And so being able to feel like you belong somewhere is extremely valuable and important.
And kind of reflecting and just jumping on that, Paul, it was kind of interesting because going back to that image you're thinking of, kind of looking back on the Earth, when you think about the most reproduced images during the Apollo mission are of the moon. They're back of our own planet, right? And there's that Bill Anders, astronaut Bill Anders, he has that quote, I'm paraphrasing now, and he's the one who took the Earthrise photo of Apollo 8 when we had first time had seen the planet from that far away. And he said, we went to discover the moon, but the most important thing is that we discovered the Earth. And I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but that's basically what he said.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. I don't know why I'm giving out the number, because we've got about 5 minutes left. But if you've got one more question that you want to get in, you think you can do it quick, 669-900-6833 is the phone number to call, or use the one top of your smartphone, or if you're on Facebook, click the thing and do the thing, and you'll be here. I want to remind you really quickly about all the other shows that are available on the Roddenberry Podcast Network, because, oh, golly, there are lots of them. Like Mission Log Live has this sort of analog show called Mission Log. Don't know if you've heard of it, but you can check that one out. Oh gosh, it's Priority One, which is sort of like a Star Trek magazine show covering news, gaming news, literary reviews, all kinds of stuff. The Trek Files takes a deep dive into Gene Roddenberry's files, pulling out letters, pulling out treatments, pulling out all kinds of stuff that people have forgotten even exists, and then talking about it in the Star Trek history sort of continuum. There's Shabam, which is all about, all about killing zombies. It's not really what it's about, but check out Shabam. And if you think, well, I'm like 10 episodes in now, here's the thing, all 10 episodes are there. I think it's 10, telling the whole story. So lots of really cool stuff. And now they're on to their connections, which are other little science, tasty science morsels, let's say. Women at Warp is a look at Star Trek through a feminist lens, or a look at feminism through a Star Trek lens. And then finally, Daily Star Trek News. It's kind of tricky because the title's funny. It's Star Trek News every freaking day. Daily Star Trek News. So the place to find all of them, podcast.roddenberry.com, or if you're fearing plural, podcasts.roddenberry.com. Really, either one of those works.
So now, Ken, what you're saying is if I wanted Star Trek News, and I wanted it daily.
Daily, yeah. Well, okay. daily, like other things are daily. It's Monday through Friday. It's Allison Pitt, for crying out loud, give her a break. It's 5 days a week of Star Trek News.
I like all of those days. It's fine.
Well, I like a Saturday and a Sunday as well, but sometimes, people need a break. That's all I'm saying. Hey, I know you have something you want to bring up with the guys, but really quickly, I got to ask you, because we've all answered, what's your space memory?
So I'm really lucky that there are some very smart people in my family, not the least of which my aunt, and then she was married to a gentleman who they both worked for NASA. And this was in the mid 60s, and then she retired, and then I think he worked there until well into the 80s. So I got to see the launch of Apollo-Soyuz. That was about 1975, I want to say. And kind of like the Vice Admiral was saying earlier, the memories are a mess. You reconstruct it every time you think about it. But I know that I remember what it was like to be there and the excitement around it, and being very far away and very disappointed that I couldn't just walk up and touch the Saturn V rocket. But I was lucky that every time I got to go visit them, I got to go to Cape Kennedy. I got to go to the museum. I got to go to the Space Center. I saw the launch of STS-1, the Columbia. Crippen and Young were the two-man crew on that one. And I remember the weird thing about that is that even though we were, a couple of miles away and we were waiting, and it got delayed. And finally we're just like, we can't just keep standing out here. So we went to a friend's condo who actually had a better view of the launch than we did down on the ground. So I remember watching it from their porch and it just being amazed by that. And night launches. I remember laying in the back of a pickup truck watching night launches of satellites and it just lighting up the sky, looking like the sun came up. So I have great memories around the space program, particularly in Florida. But yeah, it's just sort of, it's in our blood in the family, and that's very special to me. But hey, I got to shift gears because it's me, and because we were talking about space memories, and then I was conflating those with food memories earlier. Because apparently the space shuttle was at the 1984 World's Fair in Louisiana, and I don't remember that. I just remember eating chicken mole there. That led to Paul and Matthew talking about how Bill Nye baked cookies for them. I have to know this story, and I'll have a brand new vicarious food memory about the great Bill Nye, the science guy. What happened?
So Bill was one of our interviewees, and so we got connected and were able to interview Bill at the Planetary Society. But it was Paul and I were wrapping up the interview, and then he looks at us and he's like, "Hey, are you guys hungry?" And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, I'm making cookies," and we're like, "Well, what kind of cookies?" And he's like, "They're Mars cookies." And we were like, "Well, what's a Mars cookie?" And he's like, "They replicate the surface color and texture of Mars, but not the taste." What? And we were like, "Well, fantastic."
And how were they?
I remember. I think they were Were they peanut butter cookies, Paul?
I honestly don't remember
I think
the cookies
they
because
were peanut butter.
my memory about that is that we shot that interview on July the 25th, which is my brother's birthday. So then he found out about that and then proceeded to sing "Happy Birthday" to my brother.
Oh yeah,
nice.
So that's what I remember of that post interview moment.
Here's the question I have, not to be a crass commercial person, but how is Bill Nye not selling Mars cookies?
See?
I mean, this seems to me, it seems like a perfect outreach and, all of that. Hey, guys, I hate to do this, but we're like right up against it. We said earlier that you can find out more about the movie at chasingatlantis.com. Tell me where we are in the process. Like how far are we from... Yeah, I'm going to sit down and get out the old VCR, which is going to be tough because they don't make them anymore, and get out the old videotape, which, what
are you talking about?
When can people watch?
We're gonna release it on 8mm film that you have to get a little projector and watch on your wall.
Will you also have like the 3-minute cassette that you slap in the back and like hand crank? Just
that sounds great. Yeah,
those are fantastic.
We've been in. Well, we just finished wrapping up some production. We thought we were in post-production last year, but we realized that there were a couple of things that we really wanted to get. We wanted to return to Star Trek Vegas, and get a couple of additional interviews there. We also, I think Matt alluded to the fact that we went down and interviewed Dr. Jill Tarter at the SETI Institute in Northern California, at the Allen Telescope Array specifically. We did some astrophotography out there and met some really great interns. And so we're now in post-production. We don't plan on shooting anything else unless someone out there can make our unicorn dream wish happen.
Yeah, we're trying to get Patrick Stewart.
That's to get Patrick Stewart.
With the Vibe universe now.
So if you know someone who can make it happen, please help us out.
Paging Lieutenant J. No.
Yeah, there you go. Right. But yeah, so we're in post-production. I just have to cut this thing now. So, and I mean, to be honest, it's a bit of a daunting task. I mean, you have 8 years worth of content.
It's like over 100 interviews. I think we've done.
It's a lot. But the nice thing about it is we have so many stories, ranging from people from in the space program to people who work in the community around the space program to fans, to actors and creatives, that there's so much digital content that we can produce outside of this that we feel that even if we might be missing something in terms of we wanted to share a story in this and it doesn't make the cut, we can make so much more outside of that after the fact. So, so as we're going through it, we're also thinking of what else can we use this for. So
we'll keep everyone posted.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're going to do the typical, hopefully, festival circuit, and then we'll see if we can pick up distribution. It's been all independently financed by our credit cards and an Indiegogo campaign or two, and a very generous private donor. But for the most part, we just want to see that distribution take off and see what we can do.
All right.
No, I know I said earlier it was chasingatlantis.com, Facebook, Twitter, where else?
In Instagram as well.
And we've got a YouTube channel up that has some of the clips, and including the one that you guys shared recently as too.
Yeah.
Excellent. So chasingatlantis.com, guys, thank you so much. Hope you come back and visit us again and let us know how things are going with the movie.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having us.
With that said, absolutely, you're welcome. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live is by Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Mission Log Live, Women at Warp, Priority One, The Trek Files, your daily Star Trek news, and Shabam. If you would like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. And thanks to everyone who joined us live or later. We will see you again next week.